Hello, welcome back to the breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I have a ton of very big news that I'd like to brief you all on today. So I do apologize, this video is a little bit late today. I did have a doctor's appointment that I had to attend this morning, kind of threw my schedule off balance, but I am here, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. Lots of big news coming out from this war today. We're going to start off with a story coming out from U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He was speaking to reporters. Take a look at your screen here. U.S. may abandon efforts to broker ceasefire in Ukraine if no progress soon. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned Friday that the Trump administration is ready to walk away from Ukraine's ceasefire talks in the coming days if it becomes clear that a deal is impossible. Okay, so this is very, very big news. I mean, it looks like the U.S. just completely taken a 180 turn here and now started to admit that they're probably not going to end this war. And it's looking highly likely that this war is not going to come to an end. And I've been saying that for weeks now. I personally don't think this war will end anytime soon. It's probably going to continue, but I could be wrong. Maybe out of nowhere, something could happen here. So we're going to talk more about that. I'll show you guys some information regarding the ceasefire deal between Ukraine and Russia. We also have reports coming out from Kharkiv today in northeastern Ukraine. They were heavily hit by ballistic missiles, similar to what we saw happening in Sumy, also in northeastern Ukraine, just this past Sunday. Kharkiv got hit by at least three Iskander ballistic missiles, and one or two of them including cluster munition warheads. So they were slamming into residential buildings, hitting high-rise buildings. We had, I believe, upwards of maybe almost 100 people by now. The numbers just keep rising in terms of injuries, and at least one person losing their life in these horrific attacks once again. So I'm sure we're going to see Ukraine still continuously attacking the 112th Missile Brigade and 448th Missile Brigade in Russia's military, as they are directly responsible for these attacks. So expect more attacks onto those facilities inside of Russia in Kursk region and also Ivanovo that we've been talking about over the last few days. And also we had drones going into Russia last night. Looks like southwestern Russia, like the Krasnodar Krai region, Volgograd, and also some of the southern territories of Ukraine were being hit. I think Mariupol got hit last night by Ukrainian drones. We had some explosions down there. So lots of news to dive into, guys. We're going to go ahead and jump right into this. We will have a mainstream news article to start the day off with, and then we'll jump on over to X. So we're not going to go over this whole thing. I'll cite it down below in the description, as I always do. If you guys want to read the rest, I'll just show you a couple paragraphs here. So from The Guardian: U.S. ready to abandon Ukraine peace deal if there is no progress, says Marco Rubio. Secretary of State threatens to pull plug within days as Kyiv says it has signed mineral deal memorandum. Okay, so I've got an update on that as well. Looks like we could have a mineral deal being put forth here between Ukraine and the U.S. very soon. Looks like they have signed something. I've got some information on that. So it says here the U.S. will abandon its efforts within days to broker a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine unless there are clear signs a settlement can be reached. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, as Kyiv says, it has signed a memorandum with the U.S. over a controversial minerals deal. Speaking in Paris on Friday after meeting European and Ukrainian leaders, Rubio said Donald Trump was still interested in a deal, but he added that the U.S. president has many other priorities around the world and was willing to move on unless there were signs of progress. So it makes you wonder. I mean, there's a lot going on with China right now. I mean, there was a report yesterday. I wasn't able to cover it for you guys, but China's being accused not only of sending weapons to Russia or providing the necessary tools to produce weapons inside of Russia, but also yesterday the U.S. was accusing China of there was a company that works inside of China that was providing some sort of satellite intelligence to the Houthis down in Yemen that are being used to target U.S. warships. I mean, China is definitely in the spotlight right now, so it makes you wonder if that's going to be the next theater of war that the U.S. is going to focus on, not so much Ukraine and Russia. So it says here, it is not our war, we didn't start it, Rubio said, adding that if a deal were not possible with both sides still far apart, the U.S. president was probably at a point where he was going to say, well, we're done. Trump felt very strongly about this, he said. Rubio's comments are the clearest signal yet the White House is ready to walk away from its diplomatic attempts to negotiate an end to the war. It was unclear if this would This would also mean an end to U.S. military assistance to Kiev. The Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, said this week that deliveries had practically stopped. Okay, so that's a big one, too. If the U.S. walks away from peace talks, are they going to end U.S. military supplies to Ukraine? I think it could be highly likely. But we've heard also that Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has come out and offered to buy, I think, like 15 billion worth, like 10 Patriot air defense systems from the U.S., also like a $50 billion aid package. I mean, Ukraine is willing to purchase weapons from the U.S., but looks likely that maybe those aid flows could halt to Ukraine, excuse me, if we happen to see the ceasefire deal fall apart. Okay. So now we're going to jump on over here to X, and I've got a few things I want to show you guys over here. Start off with Maria Drutska. Trump earlier. We'll hear from Russia this week very shortly, and we'll see. Meanwhile, Russia's permanent representative to the UN, Benzia, has stated that the ceasefire in Ukraine is unrealistic at this stage. Just wow. Russia is openly spitting in the face of America and the President of the United States. So Trump was speaking to Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister from Italy, yesterday. I want to show you guys a clip coming out from the Oval Office when he was speaking to her, and a reporter asked Trump if they're going to start to ramp up sanctions onto Russia, and how much longer does Russia have to respond to the ceasefire. You'll see his response, and then the UN permanent representative from Russia, Nebenzia, he's going to pretty much say that they do not see a ceasefire coming anytime soon. So take a look at this real quick.
How much longer does Vladimir Putin have to respond to your ceasefire proposal before you put secondary tariffs or sanctions on Russia?
We'll see what that will be. We're going to be hearing from them this week, very shortly actually, and we'll see. But we want it to stop. We want the death and the killing to stop.
How much longer?
Okay, so you can see there the reporter was asking him how much longer until he put secondary tariffs. So from what I understand, secondary tariffs would be like on other countries. They'd basically tell other countries, do not buy Russian oil, or we'll put like 50%. I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's a high percentage of tariffs to force other countries to no longer buy oil from Russia. Could that force Russia to end the war? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see what happens with that. But Trump's still threatening secondary tariffs onto Russia if they choose not to end the war. So we've got another video coming up. Let's take a look at this.
Я не знаю, насколько мы близки к прекращению огня. Это большой вопрос для меня лично, потому что, как я уже сказал, у нас была попытка ограниченного прекращения огня в отношении энергетической инфраструктуры, которая не соблюдалась украинской стороной. Так что в этих обстоятельствах говорить о прекращении огня просто нереально на данном этапе и сегодня. Я не знаю.
Okay, so there you go. Unrealistic to see a ceasefire at this stage. Okay, so the UN representative Nebenzia coming out and saying they don't see a ceasefire happening anytime soon. So it's not looking good in terms of this war coming to an end. Here's another report from the Ukrainian Review. There have been developments in the Ukrainian settlement in the past 24 hours and optimistic hopes for an end to the conflict, says J.D. Vance. Okay, so the vice president of the U.S. saying that there's some good signs that the war is going to come to an end. You guys can let me know what you think, but so far, I mean, on the ground, it doesn't look highly likely that the war is going to end. I think there's going to have to be some sort of major pressure being put onto Russia in order for this to happen, because right now, Russia shows no signs of slowing down. So let me know what you guys think. Now we'll talk about this strike inside of Kharkiv just yesterday. From next to Russian struck a residential high-rise in Kharkiv with a missile. One person was killed and over 60 were injured as a result of the attack on the city. The night before, Russian aircraft also hit a 9-story building in Kupiansk, Kharkiv region in Dnipro. A missile strike took place early this morning. A fitness center, hotel, and an office building were damaged in the city. I mean, just missiles landing all over Ukraine right now. Take a look at this video coming out from Kharkiv. All right, guys. So once again, Kharkiv getting hit very hard. I mean, it's almost every day that Kharkiv is attacked, but attacks like this are pretty rare when it comes to missiles just striking buildings. But we can see all the cluster munitions that were striking that side of that building there. And again, as far as I know, one person being injured and, one person being killed and well over 87 or more, probably over 100 right now being injured in these strikes just yesterday. So very, very sad information coming out from there. Now from Max 24, 87 people, including 6 children, were injured in missile strikes on Kharkiv. Here's a photo coming out from that area as well, just showing lots of devastation, cars being damaged here also, homes being destroyed. Very insane that we continuously see this from Russia, that Russia's just attacking residential cities all over the place and just bombing normal people's homes, okay? This is not a military designated area. You can see here, just a lot of innocent people just walking around inside Kharkiv. So very sad, guys. Now from Spravdi, Stratcom Center, sending ballistic missiles into an apartment building featuring a giant Christ mural on Good Friday to kill sleeping Ukrainian families is the purest demonstration of core Russian culture. Kharkiv today. Take a look at that, guys. I mean, just massive damage to this building and this mural that has been put up here showing Christ on the cross. So very sad, guys. I mean, again, in Russia just doing this almost repeatedly every day, just hammering Ukrainian cities, especially with these Iskander missiles. Now from Kate from Kharkiv, bombings will never cease to feel surreal. At 5 in the morning, we were all asleep in our beds when the world suddenly erupted. Doors between rooms flew open, windows broke. Now hundreds of people are outside. Entire area of the city is left without windows close to the epicenter. Even some balconies have been torn away. The worst of the impact hit a 16-story apartment building. At least one person was killed there. At least 60 more were injured, including children covered in wounds from shattered glass. Nearby, a school stands windowless, and children have gathered to just stare at it in stunned silence and photograph. It's their school. The scene is chaos. Rescuers, volunteers, journalists, and residents whose homes have been destroyed, whose loved ones have been hurt and killed, and yet just hours ago we were all sleeping peacefully in our beds. So yeah, Kate, she lives in Kharkiv actually, and I've reported many of her posts before. She's one of the few people who get to see this firsthand, what happens to the Ukrainians inside of Kharkiv. I mean, look at all these pellets here that were striking the side of this building from the cluster munitions that were exploding above and slamming into this building. So insane, guys, what we're seeing. Now from Kate from Kharkiv again, Mykolaiv tonight. Russia attacked the city with drones, causing fire. Okay, so drones were entering into Ukraine last night. A good handful of them. We've got lots of damage here. Fires breaking out all over Mykolaiv. Also, this is another town that gets frequently hit. Looks like we had a warehouse catching on fire after drones were attacking the area. Firefighter crews on scene to put out the blaze. Now from Max 24, the Russians dropped an ODAB at 1500 on a residential building in Kupiansk. 72-year-old woman was injured and at least 10 neighboring apartment buildings were damaged. So this actually happened yesterday. This was a video that was just starting to break after we put out our update. Directly on the top of this building, we had a Russian glide bomb, I believe, that struck the very top of this building. And we do have a video here also I can show you guys. This was right after the strike took place. I mean, absolutely massive bomb. 1,500 kilograms of explosives striking the top of this residential high-rise. So very, very sad news, guys. Just getting hit. Ukraine getting hit so hard lately. Now from Bliskovka, Russians launched an attack. Shahed drone on a confectionery shop in Sumy where Easter cakes were being baked. Reports the regional military administration. An entrepreneur who came to pick up the products was killed. I mean, very sad, guys. I mean, look, imagine going to pick up some bakery items, getting ready for Easter, and all of a sudden a drone comes in, slams into the building. This is just a normal little bakery. I mean, look at this, guys. The damage to this building. They just produce, you can see like they look like muffins or some sort of bread here. Getting ready for Easter, and it's getting destroyed by Russian drones. So even more damage to reports in Ukraine. Now let's hop on over briefly and talk about Russia a little bit. Not too much news on what was getting destroyed over here, but we did have another drone swarm from Ukraine last night. Here's from Max 24. UAV's attack on Russia, map from Drone Bomber. So we can see here this map indicating that a lot of these drones were heading southwestern Russia. Down here looks like Krasnodar Krai crossing over the Sea of Azov. Crimea could have been attacked a little bit as well, but I do have reports down here in southeastern Ukraine and the occupied territories. There was some explosions over there, also in Volgograd Oblast over here. So here's from Max 24, Volgograd, Russia. Okay, so we did have a fire that broke out in Volgograd region of Russia, southwestern Russia, due to Ukrainian drone attacks. Don't know exactly what happened over here. Was the drone shot down or did it crash into a military object? It's really hard to tell. There is a fence right here, so this could be a military area. I'm not really sure, but definitely a fire breaking out in Volgograd today. Now for Max 24, again, Mariupol, a large fire in the area of the occupation administration. Okay, so their administrative buildings over in Mariupol, this controlled by the Russians, and I think this is in the Zaporizhzhia region of Ukraine, southern Ukraine. We had an explosion over here, probably another drone that maybe crashed over here in this area. So we had lots of smoke and a fire breaking out in this area. Then also, looks like we had a strike during the day as well. And this was actually breaking today. You can see around 6:30 a.m. today on April 18th. And this from Max 24, Kursk region, HIMARS strike on one of the Russian brigades. Okay, so very first time that we've actually heard of HIMARS being used inside of the Russian territory. I want to say I haven't heard any reports like this maybe for a few weeks now. So it looks like we had some sort of HIMARS attack over here on the Russian military in the Kursk region. As we know, Ukraine is still carrying out operations over there on small portions of land, but they are still in the Kursk region right now. Now move on to some other updates here from Max 24 again. U.S. officials indicated at a meeting with Europeans in Paris that they want to secure a full ceasefire in Ukraine within weeks. Okay, so yeah, it definitely looks like there's a deadline coming up here. I mean, maybe within days or weeks. We don't know exactly when the deadline is, but I'm pretty sure there is a deadline set behind closed doors. And if the U.S. doesn't see some sort of movement here on a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia, that's probably when they're going to pull out. And then that's when things are probably going to really pop off. And it's really going to depend on whether the U.S. continues supporting Ukraine or not. I'm thinking highly likely they won't. And Europe's going to have to pick up the heavy load here and start to really help out Ukraine and purchasing lots of weapons for them. So, another big thing here, too, is if the U.S. is going to completely cut off any weapons to Ukraine, period, even if Ukraine is willing to pay for it, because we heard that recently, Trump coming out and denying any requests from Kiev to produce or to purchase Patriot missile systems from the U.S., even with cash. Okay, so that's going to get interesting. Now from Bliskovka, the United States has presented its proposal to allies to settle the war in Ukraine, in particular to ease sanctions against Russia, Bloomberg writes. The U.S. actually proposes to freeze the war and leave the occupied territories of Ukraine under Russian control. In addition, Kiev's aspirations to join NATO will not be considered. Okay, so this is not good either. I mean, this kind of information coming out shows me that this war is not going to come to an end because Ukraine is not going to agree to any of this, really. I mean, freezing the war, I guess, but leaving the occupied territories under Russian control, we know Ukraine is not going to allow that. And then in terms of Ukraine joining NATO, we know Ukraine still wants to get into NATO. So I'm not really sure how they're going to come to any kind of agreement. I mean, a lot of this more sides with Russia versus Ukraine, and Ukraine still has their say in it as well in order for them to end the war. So they have their demands, Russia has their demands, and in a lot of ways, it seems like the U.S. is just more siding with the Russia demands versus Ukraine's demands. Okay, so pretty insane. Now from next, U.S. President Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said he discussed the territory issue with Vladimir Putin in the context of a possible settlement of the war. According to him, Russia may retain some regions, but not all. Witkoff also suggested the territories with predominantly Russian-speaking populations might be less of a priority for Kiev. Earlier, Volodymyr Zelensky accused Trump's envoy of promoting Russian narratives. So, yeah, I mean, Zelensky had a point yesterday when he said that Steve Witkoff, the special envoy from the Middle East that's currently in negotiations on behalf of the U.S. with Russia, he's been coming out just so much and just really lining up with Russian narratives, and that's why Zelensky's coming out saying this. Here's a report for the Wall Street Journal, a guide to the 5 regions of Ukraine at the center of U.S.-Russia talks. The territories are all at least partially occupied by Moscow's troops. So we know, yes, Russia does control a good majority of each of the 4 territories inside of Ukraine. That would be Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk, but they do not control the entirety of either of them. Okay, so we keep hearing that Ukraine's going to have to give up these territories. But again, we know Ukraine will not do so. And even if they did, they will never recognize these territories as Russian. So this war is going to continue, guys. It's looking highly likely it's not going to end. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe something will come out of the blue, and I could be completely wrong about this, and the war does come to an end. So we'll see what happens there. Now from Max 24, the Kremlin wants to convince Russians that the breakdown of peace talks with Ukraine is not Moscow's fault at all, according to Verska. No one in the Kremlin believed in the illusion of a quick peace. The main problem is the stubbornness of the Ukrainians. Connection between Putin and Zelensky has been completely severed. It would probably be much easier for each of them to negotiate with aliens than each other. So it looks like we had a report coming out today from Verska, stating that the Kremlin's already preparing to possibly even blame this on Ukraine and say, well, we had nothing to do with this. It's not our fault why, peace is not being achieved in this war. It's all Ukraine's fault or somebody else's fault. We've already been hearing this, that the Kremlin is preparing for that at all costs to make it appear as if it's not their fault. This war is not coming to an end, okay? So now for Max 24, Zelensky imposes sanctions on Chinese firms over alleged arms supplies to Russia. These firms provide a range of dual-use goods. So Beijing Aviation, Aerospace, I'm going to struggle trying to pronounce these. I'll try my best. Zhonghui Tech, Rui Jin Machinery, Zhongfu Shenying Carbon Fiber. Okay, so a few companies, Chinese firms being sanctioned from Ukraine due to reports that we had yesterday. Zelensky is saying that Ukrainian intelligence has information that the Chinese are supplying weapons and possibly artillery or artillery gunpowder or something like that, some sort of weapons over to Russia in this use for war against Ukraine. Yeah, we have some information from the Chinese Foreign Ministry today as well. So take a look at this. Max 24. Beijing has responded to Zelensky's claim that China is supplying weapons to Russia. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman called the claim baseless and said that China has never supplied lethal weapons to any side during this war. All right, so you guys can let me know what you think. Do you think China's involved here? I mean, China's been coming out trying to portray themselves as a neutral country, but there's been so much claim about China actually on the back end is supplying weapons, arms for Russia, or whether it be like even computer chips for Russia to use with their missiles and their missile technology, and just really, helping out indirectly with this war with Russia. But now it's starting to look more like direct supply of weapons for Russia if this happens to be true. But we're still waiting for Ukraine to confirm that here in the next coming weeks. Now from Liskovka, Ukraine returned the bodies of 909 fallen defenders, coordination headquarters for the treatment of prisoners of war. Here's some photos coming out today of fallen defenders on the Ukrainian side that were being returned probably to the cemeteries inside of Ukraine. Just a few photos today, so very sad to have to see that. Lots of good men losing their lives in this war inside of Ukraine. Okay, so we'll move on to another update from Liskovka. The text of the memorandum of the economic partnership agreement with the United States has been published. Here's the key points. The United States and Ukraine reaffirm their shared commitment to lasting peace and strategic partnership, recognizes Ukraine's contribution to international security, including its voluntary reunification of nuclear weapons. The United States emphasizes its respect for Ukraine's commitment to join the EU and will not impede this course. Willingness of the American people to invest in a free, sovereign, and secure Ukraine is emphasized. So overall, this is looking a lot better if these are the key points. This looks more like something Ukraine would agree to, which we are hearing they are agreeing or signing some sort of deal with the U.S. So it looks like we could be hearing more information coming out on this soon. But these were some of the key points coming out regarding this economic partnership and minerals deal with Ukraine and the U.S. So now for more translated. Meanwhile, Russia stumbles over its own lies about terrorist strikes on Sumy. So, Zakharova claimed the April 13th attack targeted a so-called meeting of Ukrainian commanders with Western instructors at Magellan restaurant. Problem is that restaurant is in Kryvyi Rih, hit by an Iskander on April 4th. Okay, so this is Maria Zakharova. She's the spokeswoman for the Russian Foreign Ministry, and I don't know if maybe she got confused about what she was talking about here, but this almost makes it appear as if Russia doesn't even know what they were attacking inside of Sumy, as we had that horrible attack in Sumy, northeastern Ukraine. It's a city over there, just over the border of the Kursk region from Russia. And two Iskander ballistic missiles struck in the city center. We had lots of innocent people being killed. I think over 30 people killed and over 100 wounded. And also, there was reports that there was a regional military administration officer over there who was relieved of his duty, and possibly maybe due to a ceremony being held over there for the Ukrainian military, and maybe that's why Russia carried out this strike. So who knows what really happened here? But take a look at this as she gets confused about what that strike was this past Sunday.
Ну и об излюбленной методике киевского режима и его западных кураторов, об очередной постановке. Помните, как последние несколько дней весь так называемый коллективный Запад поднял буквально гвалт относительно нанесенного 13 апреля текущего года российскими вооруженными силами высокоточного удара ракетой в фугасном снаряжении по месту проведения совещания командиров соединений ВСУ с участием западных инструкторов. Вся эта сходка имела место в ресторане «Магеллан» в городе Сумы.
Okay, so yeah, clearly that's the wrong restaurant. It's supposed to be in Kryvyi Rih, so I'm not sure if maybe she was just reading the wrong script there. You can see that she is reading something, so maybe she just got confused. Who really knows? But we do know that that horrific attack was carried out, and regardless, there were still a lot of people killed and injured, so very sad. Now, from X-24, the Ukrainian military uses Techno-Taras aircraft-type interceptor drones to shoot down Russian reconnaissance UAVs, according to Humanitarian. As of today, 160 such interceptors have been used. They have shot down 133 enemy reconnaissance UAVs. Efficiency is 83%. So check these out. These are pretty cool. They look very tiny. And these drones intercept Russian reconnaissance UAV drones. Okay, so when Russia's trying to carry out some intelligence drone flights over Ukraine, these things are designed to take those down. Okay, so it looks like they're made out of some sort of foam or something. It looks like they're very light as well. So pretty cool to see that. That's what Ukraine is doing to defend their skies. Now for Bliskovka, Russia's deploying advanced fighter jets and missiles to destroy Starlink terminals in Ukraine, according to Forbes. In addition, Russia is developing weapons that could be used in a possible space war against the West. Russia's testing a Noodle missile capable of shooting down satellites in low orbit, the article says. Okay, so this is once again more talk about Russia trying to take down satellites in space. We've heard even reports in the past that Russia was developing some sort of satellite that could carry a weapon that could take out satellites up in space as well, some sort of like nuclear satellite or something like that. So just more talk about this, okay? Russia deploying advanced fighter jets and missiles to destroy Starlink terminals in Ukraine. So even Starlink terminals possibly going to be destroyed as well. So that was a report coming out from Forbes today. More talk about space war. Now from X-24, Ukrainian military writes that a large exchange of prisoners of war is being prepared for Easter, waiting for confirmation in 2 days. Okay, so get ready in the next couple days. We're going to have a major prisoner swap between Russia and Ukraine, probably over 100 prisoners on either side, which is good. That means a lot of Ukrainian prisoners of war will be coming home. So very good news for Ukraine. Now from X-24, Russians announces Easter a terrorist attack in Kharkiv region. As usual, they blame the armed forces of Ukraine. So this is from TASS news agency, on Telegram, and they stated the Ukrainian armed forces are preparing a provocation on the eve of Easter in the unliberated part of the Kharkiv region to discredit Russian troops. Vitaly Gonchev told TASS. Okay, so is this Russia preparing a massive attack onto Ukraine very soon? They come out and kind of gaslight this every now and then. They'll state that Ukraine is preparing some sort of an attack or provocation, but then soon after it's actually Russia that does that, or could it be the other way around? Who really knows? But it looks like there is something big coming on Sunday, so I'm not looking forward to that. We're probably going to hear some bad news coming out of Ukraine if the Russians launch a major missile attack onto Ukraine again. I mean, they haven't done that in a while. They have been launching coordinated strikes in certain areas, but not so much, like a broad missile attack, like 100 missiles or more at a time. We haven't really seen Russia do that in a while, so I'm sure they have been saving up their missiles right now. Now from X-24, Japan will provide Ukraine with a $3 billion loan. Ministry of Finance, reported today it will be repaid with proceeds from frozen Russian assets. Okay, so another $3 billion loan coming from Japan. I think they just gave like $1 billion or so recently over the last month or so. And now another $3 billion coming from Japan that will be repaid by frozen Russian assets. Now, from Bliskovka, Air Defense Forces of Ukraine destroyed 3 out of 6 Russian cruise missiles and 23 out of 37 Russian UAVs. 10 enemy imitator drones were lost in the area. All right, so here's our little diagram of the day to show how many Russian UAVs went into Ukraine. Only 37, probably one of the lowest numbers we've seen in a little while now. And it looks like 10 were being lost in the area, maybe brought down by electronic warfare. And we had a few missiles being shot down as well. Okay, so 6 Russian missiles going into Ukraine last night, 3 being shot down. In our final update of the day from the Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of April 18th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. All right, guys, so our final update of the day, Russia's losses as of April 18th. 1,530 troops, 40 AFVs, 312 vehicles and fuel tanks, 8 tanks, 88 artillery systems, 140 UAVs, 1 MLRS, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, and 51 special equipment. Okay, guys, so some major numbers to take a look at here. And real quick, before I go over these numbers, we did have reports yesterday that Zelensky announced during a press briefing in Kyiv that the Russians had launched 2 major offensives over the last couple days. I think it was in Zaporizhzhia region, also Donetsk. And basically all these attacks were completely halted, and the Ukrainians had obliterated them. And there's some videos that were coming out on X recently also showing some of these Russian attacks just being completely stopped. So take a look at these numbers now that I gave you that info. 1,530 troops, okay? A little bit higher than what we normally see, around 1,300. 40 AFVs about average, but look at this. 312 vehicles and fuel tanks, guys. That's insane. That's probably double the amount that we normally see. We usually see somewhere on average around 150 or so. So 312. So that's probably regarding all these attacks from the Russians recently launching these offensives. And these are the numbers starting to come out now. So 8 tanks, not a super high amount of tanks. 80 artillery systems on the higher end, usually about 40 to 60 on average we see. And take a look at this number right here, guys. 51 special equipment. I don't think I've ever seen this number so high. I'm not even sure what all these special equipment that were destroyed were, but definitely the highest I've ever seen. Usually we see anywhere from 1 to 3 on average for this category here, but 51 special equipment, that is insane how much was destroyed over the last 24 hours or so. So yeah, the Russians have been launching a lot of attacks, and as far as we know, Ukraine's been stopping them on the Eastern Front. And just huge news coming out. There's a lot of big stories here that I'm going to try my best to keep an eye on and follow, like this one right here, the U.S. possibly abandoning peace efforts for the war between Ukraine and Russia. And what do you think will happen if those peace efforts fail? Do you think this war is going to really kick off? And if that happens, also, is the U.S. going to pull aid from Ukraine completely, even if Ukraine's willing to pay for the aid? Okay, so let me know what you guys think about all these details down below. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in for this update on April 18th, 2025 on Friday. Hope you guys all have a great weekend. Starting out for tomorrow, and a good Easter weekend. Get out and have some fun with the family. Go to the park and do a barbecue and enjoy yourselves. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.